All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. Keep your views coming at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. We're talking about reorganizing or agonizing. It's still the same conversation. My guests are still with me. Kasmil Makoure, artist and activist. Mwanase Ahmed Ubuntu, activist and global citizen. And Mohamed Abdullahi, a law student. At some point, we'll excuse Mwanase. Around 7:30, she has a commitment to attend to. So when she disappears from the screen, don't be alarmed. All right? So that's the conversation we're having right now. But let's talk about this, Mwanase. And I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on this. It's on the headlines. Kalonzo defends Gachagua amid ouster onslaught. DP allies face arrest as coup claim emerges. There's a plot, an alleged plot, to impeach the deputy president. But the biggest question I keep asking the younger generation is, are they agonizing or organizing? Because whichever direction you want to look at this impeachment situation, it's an organization of the team of the political class. They're trying to figure out who fits where, what happens where. But are the young people doing the same?
Thank you. On agonizing or organizing, I feel like agony is what fuels organizing. And I don't think we could say just one or the other. There's so much agony, there's so much pain, there's so much hardship. We're seeing children be burned to death. We're seeing continued, misappropriation of resources. We're seeing impunity. We're seeing lack of accountability. We're seeing our country's resources continue to be just sold out, given away. So we have so much anger, frustration, pain, hardship within our youth, within our young people. We have people who are, I think Dr. Mara's suicide the other day is just one small example of like the way that our government is failing us, has failed us, has been failing us for decades and decades and decades. It's reached a point where not only as an individual, it's what can I squeeze, like wringing out the laundry. How much can I squeeze out of these people through taxes and as well as how much can I underfund all of the institutions and infrastructure and lack of job creation. We're building a showroom so that we can learn how to go clean houses in Dubai. Like, how is that serving our people? So the agony. We're losing people due to lack of medical services. I think you saw the hospital in Turkana the other day that was on the news you're laying on the ground with your drip like tied off of a stick. And so the state of of well-being of the nation, of the majority of the nation, there is a more wealthy part, but the 99%, the 95% is completely suffering. There's so much agony and there's so much trauma. And especially after seeing the reaction to these past few months of stepping up to request more, to ask for better, to ask for actual representation. So the agony, I think, is only increasing, and as it has been over a long time, and it fuels organizing.
Okay.
So,
all right. Abdullahi, should the deputy president be impeached?
The presidency should be impeached. They come as a package. I think both of them are unfit to hold public office. It's not a question of one or the other. Is there inability from the occupier of the office of the deputy president to hold that office well, or as the Constitution thought that it should be held? 100%. I think there is a common understanding among Kenyans that both the occupiers of the office of the presidency are unfit to lead the people.
And all of their team.
Yes, and of course, who they came part of, because the administration comes as a package. So, but is he being impeached, or is this claim for impeaching the deputy president one that is based on his inability to hold public office, as Chapter 6 or as Article 137 of the Constitution envisages? I do not think so. This particular claimant to impeach the deputy president is one of settling political scores. The boss wants to show who is boss. It is primarily that. And it's an unfortunate situation, because whereas the likelihood is that we will lose out Mr. Gachagua if the impeachment succeeds, and Kenyans would have saved themselves a person who is unable to hold public office holding that public office. I think that the bigger problem is the presidency, or the occupiers of the office of the presidency, are both incapable of holding public office for the good of the Kenyan people. That has been shown by their actions. That has been shown by their lack of concern for everything. That has been shown by their lack of fulfilling key promises which they made to the people of Kenya in 2022.
Okay. Kasma?
To the Deputy President, Mr. Rigathi Gachagua, it is my sincere hope and prayer that you are impeached. And I say this in the best interest of the Kenyans, and I need you to listen to me, pole pole. Let's just do it step by step. You and I have a common problem. If anything, your boss and his cronies are planning against you. Guess what? They have been planning against us. And when you guys were working together, you ended up being entrapped in something. Yes, granted, if you are impeached, you will not be allowed to serve for office. But you've been in government for the longest time. I don't even need us to work together, Mr. Rigathi. I just need you out of that office so that you help us. Because right now you are trapped by, it is the trappings of power that are preventing your boss from going. Deep down, I know you want this. Deep down, I want this. It is very important for you to, and do this because the country is bigger than any individual. I could make you a deal that resign. If you resign, and we work on saving Kenyans from this sham that is the presidency and the bullies that are around there. You know, this is going to help because we hope that another deputy president will not be bullied. And this is specifically for the deputy president. Sorry for the other viewers and listeners. If you resign, you do the honorable thing before they impeach you. Because if they impeach you, you're never going to get into government. And even if you resign, Kenyans are not going to vote for you. So join us and do the right thing. Put the country forward as we have. We risked our bodies and put them on the streets. And if you do this, I promise you, Mr. Rigathi Gachagua, if you do this, I just even might not vie in 2027. I might... let us put the country in front of us.
Let us vying in 2027?
You know, because I said if we do not get a bullet revolution, we can get a ballot revolution. Mr. Rigathi Gachagua offers a very unique public-private partnership to enable us to have a government for the people, where if we can partner with people in government, and this does not even have to be direct. It can be a gentleman's agreement where he will do his things, us we will do our things, but because we have identified a common problem. And even the people who are saying this is a very peaceful route. Mr. Rigathi Gachagua, the country is bigger than you. The country is bigger than I. Can we just do the right thing for the country? Let us not waste so much space, because now I see you are taking up front lines, while here we would be talking about ways we can develop the country. Let us not do this.
All right. Monase, what do you read into this political... So I know, Abdullah, you have something to say, but what do you read in this political setup where now the deputy president is getting support from the unlikely allies? I mean, Kalonzo defending Gachagua amid ouster onslaught, saying that we will stand with you. The people of the mountain have friends. Is this more of the same thing in the games of political chairs, just repeating itself over and over again?
Thank you. First, I would just like to say that I think all of those who are on this panel have independent views.
Yes.
So I would like to just make that clear. I'd like to just first quickly piggyback off of the last thing. Mina sema toka wote, tokeni. Even if you resign, you have no dignity. There's no dignity left. There's nothing left for you. There's no leadership. We don't want you anywhere. I hear New York is very welcoming. Wanaweza enda, ende Naruto, ende wote, wachukue timu yao, because this is not leadership, it's not governance, and we want nothing to do with it. So for me, I fully support the impeachment of both. They're welcome to resign. Either way, there will be change. They are not leaders in this country, and we will create a better future. I think that what we're seeing is a power struggle. They know that they're going, wanaenda. So Ruto is going, Gachagua is going, so they're trying to create whatever allyship they can to stay in power. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. I think it's a scramble. As we can see, it's been a scramble. It's been campaigning. It's been trying to create allyship. And I think it also just shows us the complete ineffectiveness of our separate branches of government. How is our legislative? They're the ones who are meant to be holding accountability of the government. It's completely ineffective. from all of the parastatals to the institutions to the government. It's a complete mess of nani who can, put the most money into the other's pocket to support their own political, personal agenda. There's nothing happening here that's actually in the interest of the people. So I think we can just see it's a scramble for power and to try to retain allyship, even though wote wanaenda nyumbani.
Yeah, it's an interesting statement that you make, that there's nothing here in the interest of the people. But do the people see it like that? Because the same politicians keep saying that if you touch the deputy president, you're touching the Mount Kenya region. And we've spoken to some of them who say that it is indeed true. That is our person. We want them in there.
For a long time, I think that our people are so brainwashed, which is, I myself included, all of us are at fault for enabling a system that's based on, region and tribe and little, even if the government is actually serving that area better. That's within their mandate. That's not, it's, so this idea of continuing, which we've seen happening over the past 3 months. It's let me go to this region, let me reestablish my footing there. I don't think it's going to last long. At this point, yes, we're still divided. Okay, watu wa coast wamefurahika because Joho amepata a mining blue economy position. So we still have that within us to think, which I don't blame us, to think that people from our region will serve our interests. And there's a lot of wealth, not necessarily going back in for the right reasons, but that does go back into specific areas. And there's a very small percentage of our population that benefits a lot when certain people are in power. So of course they're going to continue supporting it. But I don't think it's obviously not a sustainable solution. It's not going to continue this way for long. I think it's becoming a lot more blatant how little the government truly has the interest of the people on a broad level. Okay.
Mohammed?
Trevor, just to start you off, I slightly disagree with Kasmul. I do not think that there is anything the person of the deputy president has to offer the revolution that Kasmul and many other Kenyans would love to see happen in this country. Historically, or even if you follow the career of the deputy president, he was past time and he served in public administration. He oversaw the Molo killings as a district officer then. There is absolutely nothing that he has to offer, not goodwill, not integrity, not advice, nothing that he has to offer the new Kenya that we want to see. He has sold nothing but tribalism. He has sold nothing but politics of division. He has sold nothing but politics of oppression. Secondly, on the question that you ask, Manase, that they say, huyo ni mtu wetu, or that is our person and we've kept them. So politicians, huyo ni mtu wetu, or that is our person and we've kept them. So politicians have done a better storytelling than majority of us. They've sold us the idea that their individual political interest is synonymous with the public interest of the locations or the areas of this country where they come from. That they are the guarantors of the interest of the people of central Kenya, that the interest of the farmer, of the coffee farmer, of the dairy farmer, of the tea farmer in Murang'a and Kiambu and only can be safeguarded when one of them is in office. It is true because that is how they've also practiced the politics. That is why Kikuyu constituency was allocated, I think, 1.1 billion shillings for roads when entire counties in northern Kenya were allocated 50 million shillings. So they've sold this narrative so well that the interest of the people or the regions that they come from is synonymous with them in office. We need to sell a counter-narrative. And the counter-narrative is true, that if anything, they are your problem, they are your detriment, they are the ones who... Even if you bought their stories, it is why tea is stuck at Mombasa auction. It is because individuals wanted specific shillings, if it is true, specific shillings per kilo. And there is a highly likelihood that there is some truth to it, because there is a close relationship between how we practice our politics and how they want to benefit financially and economically from those politics. If and when Mr. Gachagua is impeached, if that happens, please go to Madeira if the revolution that we want, if the good Kenya that we want comes sooner than 2027, surely we will come after you, we will look for you, we will bring you to a dock, and we will try and make you face the tune of justice. If that comes in 2032 and you're still around, whenever it comes, the wheels of justice might be slow, but we will surely come after you, and not only you, but any person who represents your politics, any person who represents everything that happened to our people on the June 25th and throughout.
Kasmuel, how do you justify this collaboration? Because this is why most of the time you've been accused, actually, of being part of the other team from within, because there were pictures of you that surfaced and you're hanging out with Silvanus Osoro, who's perceived to be pro-government. Now you're saying that the deputy president should join your team. How do you justify the collaboration that seems to be lost for the people who you're with in what you call the revolution?
I think it is a sad state of affairs that we are losing the art of sarcasm. Anyone who knows my stance knows that I am in no way interested in working with Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, that I hold nothing with him in common principle, and this invitation is actually a public ridicule of what he's trying to make. Because yesterday I was at a funeral at Endarasha, and now I would love to address what I think is the Kenyan problem. We pay a lot of lip service to the perceived change. That even recently we have had posters of Occupy everywhere and total shutdown Kenya, and those have failed twice. When Akina Mwanase were having that, they were presenting a list of people who had been killed and forcefully disappeared during the protests. The posters were made public, but no Kenyan cared to show up. That you found that it was a handful of activists and the victims, the parents of and family members of the victims. Then we want to engage ourselves in an online spiel because all of us are armchair revolutionaries. Nobody wants to go out there and do the work. So we want to pay a lot of lip service. So me saying that I'm inviting a public-private partnership is just a mockery of whatever the nonsense these people are doing. Because at the funeral, and this is why I was pivoting off of the funeral, we spoke about children having died in an inferno. That, first of all, is a story that should be dominating the headlines here. Because the photo of Rigathi that is on the front page of the Standard is a photo that was taken at a funeral. But they've taken this shot, and these are the clothes that the man was wearing yesterday. They've taken this shot, and if you can see, they're saying emotions are high for lost angels at Endarasha. These emotions are high was a statement that Gachagua had said the first time that he visited those people, and instead of bringing condolences, he brought rice and beans. Then part of my core goals, one was to empathize and pass my deepest sympathies with the families, because there's a case of a very particular student that I was following up on. Because remember, there was a time when the numbers we were not very clear about the numbers, that the government had said that there were 70. And I went to the ground, even a week prior, even the week before. And now when we were doing the memorial, there's one particular case of a child that I was following up with a family that I was very heartbroken to realize that the child had been confirmed dead in the inferno. But two, I was there to ensure that politicians don't bring politics. However, I was shocked. They played a very curious case of tiki-taka, where they did a political football formation, where the moderator invites a governor who passed the ball to Kalonzo, and Kalonzo very conveniently avoided speaking about politics and passed the ball to Eugene. It's Mheshimiwa Eugene, who spoke about politics in that funeral, but he was very crafty as well. And he's the one who spoke about the impeachment of the deputy. And they talked about it in the typical Musiguze Mlima fashion. And he's the one now who ends up saying that you need to know that the mountain has friends. Now they've turned that into a collective problem. And at the time, you could see how jittery the people who were present were. But the moment he said that the mountain has friends, and that was the line that dissolved, that quelled all the tensions, and everyone was clapping and everyone was there. And then the ball is finally passed to the deputy president, who does not need to talk about what it is, but he looks very, very coy, very beleaguered, very, very defeated in an attempt to whip up our emotions. So me inviting this man for a partnership is to tell him, these are the consequences of your action. You are the one who said that you helped Uhuru you removed him from a bar and you helped him for 20 years. We're telling you that your ineptitude has caused this. We now have an educated people. We have an educated youth, yes. And we are saying that whether or not you are impeached or you resign, The country is bigger. This is a very small story because there are things. We are losing our airports.
Yeah.
They're introducing that social health authority increments that is reducing dental care from 50,000 to 2,000 shillings. I don't know who's advising this government. Your impeachment, Mr. Rigathi Gachagua, does not warrant space on the front page. And I need to make this very clear because politicians think we live in a false binary, that because I've said such a thing, that now they will start calling me, as they always have. They want to call me and think that I am willing. I'm not willing to be aligned with any of them. However, this is a very, very small story.
Yeah.
Your impeachment does not, because we do not want either of you.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Let me bring in Manasseh, and I know, Manasseh, you're running out of time here. So what next for the younger generation going forward, looking into 2027? How do you then ensure that this revolution we're talking about yields some sort of fruits or the desired outcome at a time when we know that the political class have a way of galvanizing around themselves? You can even see how the broad-based government has moved in now. Part of the opposition that is not very happy now says they will support the deputy president if the impeachment comes. How will you ensure that the younger generation achieve what they really want? What is the plan?
Thank you. I think it's a multi-generational movement. I don't think it's only the youth that would like to see change in this country. I know that it's actually very multi-generational. I think the youth are just at the point where they have nothing to lose. There's certain, from the millennials and who are a bit more comfortable. They can feed their children, they can put their children in school. But I do think it's completely multi-generational. I think it's morphing currently, like from the streets-based movement. People aren't willing to just be shot point blank and be murdered in the streets. There's got to be, and I think we've seen also like a legislative legal approach with different cases being opened up. I hope that continues to escalate through EACC, ICC, Amnesty International, through the bodies within Kenya also pushing for justice and accountability. I think we've seen we see also a movement into a creative realm where we see artists, musicians, also speaking, and I think it's important to look at a creative approach to civic education, to sharing messages, to breaking down our own thoughts and inspiring a new type of thought. Of course, there's a lot of strategic conversations also that need to continue happening. But I think already what we've seen over the past few months is like the movement, it's not dead, it's not gone, it's just morphing, it's taking different routes. There's a lot of engagement. Every taxi you get in, every conversation that you have on the streets at the moment is actually about the state of our country and politics and what next. And so there's a heightened interest and awakening in kind of knowing that change may be possible, change will be possible, rather than just nihivitu. And I think we've been complacent for a long time in, not everybody, but as a country. So at the moment, I think there's naturally an organic morphing of the movement, which we can see through different initiatives happening and online and what Morara has done. I think, regardless of which side he may be on, I think it's been incredible for the country to see this. So at this stage, I think there's some very interesting strategic conversations happening, as well as like a multifaceted approach. But we know that there's large power structures, there's a lot of money, there's a mafia in place. And so it's really important for our Kenyan community to build a strategy, that's a long-term strategy, or continue building a strategy, as well as allowing organic action to happen, because the wealth and the power will cease to exist. Hapo tunawaambia. We're not asking, we're not demanding. We will continue to free this country. This country is colonized by its own people. It has been since independence, and we will be here to see a change and to see a better day and to ensure that happens.
Do you think things will change in 2027, or is it more of the same people?
I think things are going to continue to change. Every single day we're going to see change, and we're going to continue seeing more justice, and we're going to keep building. So it's not going to be a one-time shift, I think, but we're going to continue to create the change that we need to see.
Okay. There's a lot of feedback coming through, and when we come back from the feedback, Manasseh will allow you to head out because you have an engagement coming up. Manasseh Ahmed, Ubuntu activist and a global citizen. Thank you so much for making time. But let's bring up some of the feedback at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. Let's bring that up on screen and see what you're saying. Yes, Babu Michael says the KK government should know that the Kenyan people, if not the Gen Zs, gave them a vote of no confidence a long time ago. It has been evident in the previous demos. No one is spared in this. The impeachment of Deputy President Gachagua is a sideshow. It will not help. Okay? Frank Orinde says the political class are organizing on how to grab power as the youth are agonizing. The impeachment is just another tool being deployed to cut DP to size and show him who's mighty. KK regime has forgotten about the plight of the citizenry. Its power struggle, zero work. Bob Otieno says there's nothing like an impeachment but political hoodwinking. Kenyans from Adani deal, shifting from NHIF to SHIF, and sneaking of Finance Bill 2024-2025 bit by bit incognito. Okay? See what else. Engineer Nazaro says, no, government should stop using June protests as a justification to violent crackdown on several youth groups. This trend may create very dangerous narratives of waging war against our own youths. Okay? Nixon says, I really doubt whether coup can be successful without the support of a significant portion of the military. Can someone provide any modern examples of this before we start blaming the Gen Z for such? Okay? So, Mohammed, looking into the future, do you think the young people are going to change this nation? In what direction? Because the political class are more of the same people. I keep repeating this because we've seen this over time, that it's still the same people still come back. So will the younger generation or the revolutionaries change this country, and how?
Trevor, I think some change has already happened. I think a significant change has already happened. I know that as humans we want to see the problem that bedevil us change immediately, and we want to see access to healthcare improve almost immediately. Unfortunately, the way our politics is structured, it is not achievable that way. What has happened between when this started and today? I think there's a consciousness improvement among the public and Kenyans at large. I think that is a change. It's a positive one. I think it's an improvement from where we've come from. I think today we are having a discussion about the Adani deal, and it's people are openly saying that we are against it, and there's a ongoing discussion. I think that is an achievement. I think members of parliament who had sponsored draconian bills on horticulture, on agriculture, pulling out those bills, I think that is an achievement. Public participation in a lot of these bills had a lot of engagements. Lawyers went ahead and drafted templates where people could publicly participate in those bills. I think that is an achievement. However, I understand your question in that what will the ultimate change that we want, which is in the political setup? Will more members, young members, join parliament in 2027? Will young people, or at least not necessarily even young people, I think I've said this before here, that we really need just people of integrity. We need people who can work. We need people who are qualified to hold those positions, regardless of their age. Can we get those people into parliament and into positions of power? I think in 2027, Trevor, if as a result of what happened in 2024 and what will continue to happen in 25, 26 and 27 will lead to the election of one young person into parliament in the place of a UDA sycophant today, I think we will have achieved success. If it will lead to 2 members of parliament in the place of 2 UDA sycophants, we will have achieved some semblance of success. We will celebrate, we will sing its success, and slowly but surely, I think it will come.
Yeah. Kasmuel, how will you balance this? Because there's always an old saying that before you lead, you must learn to follow. And there's some level of collaboration that has to come with those who are already in office. But you have completely different ideologies with them. So how then do you get into those positions that you're talking about in 2027 and bring change to the nation? Whereas the people who are already there, you may not be seeing eye to eye with them.
Trevor, I totally believe that we will take power in 2027. That we will find means. Wherever there's a will, there's a way. Just the same way we found a way to repeal this finance bill, the way we managed to get the cabinet shuffled, although they fumbled the bag there, we will take power. However, this is not just about, and I said, it's not about armchair activism. It's not about an armchair revolution where you want to sit down and push a hashtag. Taking power is more than just typing Ruto must go on Twitter. It's more than just saying ban Ruto at UNGA. The people who run these tags, first of all, are not interested in power, because you find there are young men and women who are in Kenya saying Ruto must go, but they are pushing hashtags for Samia Suluhu Hassan in Tanzania. So there are two worlds. There's the digital world and there's the world where the people are. We will take power by going and selling the ideologies. Just the same way these politicians have been selling the ideologies to the people is the exact same way we have to go and sell our ideologies to the people. And we have tested it and we have tried it, and the Kenyans are with us. So it means that if we are well organized, if we give them a proper structure of where we want to take the country, which I believe is the next place we should do, because when we, personally, the question when it was directed to me, what next, was a rather premature question. But right now, it will come from finding the places where we will get the most power. So if government can infiltrate our organizations without fear of contradiction or shame, why can't we infiltrate government? It will mean that even if you find a party that's willing to give you a ticket and you are the one to bring that change, we will form those parties. Yes, and sell them to the Kenyans. But if you find a way where you can infiltrate a party and get political power by it, then you can do it. We will explore all possible avenues that will lead to us still being alive. And I would pivot off of that by saying that it is long gone. The times, I do not believe that I was destined to die in the streets. Right now, I have made a little bit of a name for myself. So it is a little harder for me to become, and it's not impossible, it is not in the realm of impossibility. But if we go to a protest, the amount of public goodwill I have is significantly higher than for that young man from Mathare or Kibera. If I take that young man without a plan to the streets, I cannot afford to see any other young person die. That's why I cannot just willy-nilly engage in any act of protest until we are sure that that is what the direction we want to go. Because a lot of these people just want they want to whip up emotion. Everyone wants a revolution, but nobody wants to do the dishes. It will come from the connection with the people. If I were to pivot off just to go on a tangent, back to the story of this DP, because when he talks about it, they find very creative ways of bundling voters. We also have to be equally as creative, because I want to ask this to the people of Githurai if you're watching. The people of Githurai and the people of Mount Kenya, you are fellow Kenyans and we love you. If anything, we have long-term plans with and for you that are outside politics. Let those who have understanding understand. But we can no longer treat you people as a political, ideological dump site. Wakati mlikuwa mnauliwa, Githurai, Rigathi Gachagua was silent. When there was a whole massacre that people have obfuscated, he did not talk. But him as a rich man, when he hears allegedly that there are people who want to impeach him, he comes and now says, Mtu asiguze Murima. The man is a tribalist to the core. He's so tribal that in the central business district, the capital city, he can hold a rally and address people in Kikuyu. Surely, the man is spoiling your name. He's the one who's now trying to make the Kikuyus look tribal, because when we buy your produce, we do not discriminate on tribe. For us to move forward, we will have to rethink this. And this will not come at it because I said it on television. It will come by me even going to the ground and us sitting down and asking ourselves, do we still want the country to be run as a shareholding? Because if we have men like these in power, the change that we anticipate is nowhere in sight. Okay. That is why we must work very hard to replace people like these.
Mohammed, there's this issue of ethnic balkanization. Is it still a foregoing concern in this country?
100%, Trevor, because that is where those in the political class today draw their political power from. All these parties today, Trevor, or the political leaders of these parties today, draw their support mostly from their ethnic backgrounds. That is the negotiating thing that they come to the table. Today, we might castigate Rigathi Gachagua for Mulima and all of these discussions about central Kenya. However, he clearly understands that the moment he loses the support of this region, then his negotiating power that he went with to Mr. Ruto is gone. Similarly for Kalonzo Musyoka and Raila Odinga and all of these people. So I think it's still a very significant part of how we play our politics. However, in 2022, I think there was a wider shift than that. That discussion between the have-its and have-nots of this country, that class discussion between hustlers and dynasties, was equally one of trying to balkanize this country into two main groups. That we are not Kikuyus and Somalis and Luyus anymore. We are a country of only two people, which is have-its and have-nots. That is a reality. It might have been used, and a lot of people could argue that it was only a means to get into power. However, I think that is a good discussion, that we are only a country of two groups, have-its and have-nots. We are a country of the oppressors and oppressed. Majority of us fall into oppressed. Today, many young people will not be joining university education because those in office saw it fit to increase the rates for university students. Education, which has been a changer for villages and communities and towns and cities, many of those young people will not be joining university, unfortunately. Trevor, you're going to be contributing 2.75% of your monthly income for the Social Health Insurance Fund. Unfortunately, your maximum optical coverage will only be 1,000 bob, elfu moja. 950 of it apparently is for the visit to see the doctor, and only a 50 shillings of that 1,000 is left for the medical that you require, and in the event that you might require spectacles and all of these things. So really we're just a country of two. If we could find the discussion that they succeed in, because politics is a game of narratives. I have to buy into your narrative to wake up that morning to come out and vote. I think that if we continue with this discussion, that we're a country of the oppressed against oppressors, that we must come out and fight against those who continue to damage our future, the future of our kids, I think we'll have an alternative narrative. Yeah. Was it tested in 2022 to success? Is it a very lively and realistic narrative that we can continue to sell? I think it is one that we can continue to sell.
Yeah, Kasmuel, how will your team deal with this issue of ethnic balkanization? Is it still a reality in the revolution itself?
Ethnic balkanization is a reality in the Kenyan framework. You know, when we said we are leaderless, it does not mean that we are not capable of leadership or that we are opposed to leadership. What we simply meant is the fact that the leaders we currently have in place do not speak for us. They are not a representation of who we are. When we said we are tribeless, it did not mean that we don't care for tribes. We do not care and appreciate the beautiful tribal mosaic we have in the country. What we said is, for the longest time, tribe had been used to balkanize us, to divide us, to tell me that I cannot associate with my brother because he comes from the north, and all those kinds of nonsense. So we said we are putting that aside. When we said we are partyless, we were not saying that we do not appreciate the sacrifice of those who went before us to get us multi-partyism. We were saying that after that, the trappings of power got to their heads and they used those to further divide us. The issue of tribalism, and this is a nuanced conversation, tribalism does not exist. Voters, after this, I don't care for your tribe. If you're going the same direction, we're going the same direction. It only happens in the days leading up to the election where they find a way to craft this. And we must find ways to counter that narrative, because our generation comes from those very tribes as well. If we have emerged as leaders, then it means we need to find a way to counter that narrative. And this is where the work in the communities happens. This work does not happen just because I tweeted about it. It doesn't work because I stood on top of a car and said that now we are tribeless. It works because, and like I always say, everyone wants a revolution, but nobody wants to do the dishes. If by now your parents still, and you're a young person and you're watching, your parents still tells you, usinilete Mkikuyu kwa nyumba, usinilete Mjaluo kwa nyumba. You think you can change that by protesting? It starts in the home. The work of the revolution, the true work of a revolutionary starts in the home. It starts by me saying that I will not abuse my wife. I will not allow tribalism to work in my home. That is the only way we can beat it. But we cannot also divide us, because we are still Kenyans. And we will find ways to... The Kenyans believe in us as if we are leaders. It does not matter from whatever tribe you come from. That the issue of tribalism will not be protested away, it will not be legislated away, but it will come from us doing the work that we don't want to do. We don't want to study, we don't want to sit down and listen to the people from the communities, because a lot of the times we are at the point where there are a lot of emotions, we are still very angry, and it is justifiable, but no real change will come if we do not find means to connect. Because if we found a good answer, because the Kenyans support all our actions. Anytime I've met Kenyans, they're like, you are doing a good job, you did a good job, and we ask you not to drop the ball. If we figure out a way of presenting clearly the hopes and the dreams, communicating the hopes and the dreams of the country in such a way that we are seen as viable options, the country will vote for us at 6:45. And I'm urging the youth, now we are moving into a new dispensation of the Constitution. Let us get our IDs, and we're asking if the older generation is truly interested in helping us. We are saying that if we must get to 2027, if nothing happens before then, if we get to 2027, give us this chance to vote. Let's give first-time voters an opportunity, just the way we do the way we've always done in the buses, and we excuse the elderly and those who are wajawazito. Well, let's allow the youth to vote, because the only election that can be stolen or rigged is an election that has low voter turnout. We will beat it. Then we say the people who voted more than once or twice in their lives, you can start voting maybe from noon to 1. But but that's just I say that in jest. But that's part of what we need to do as young people. We will not just take power because I sit here in a media house and say that now it is done. Online popularity does not equate what it is on the ground. If you don't go on the ground. There was a very popular online candidate who was a darling of the people. He was called Peter Kenneth. We knew that man was going to win that election. Now see. And then before we in Nairobi youth think that civic education needs to be taken to Mashinani, I need to remind you of the caliber of people, the people in Mashinani, who you want to lord civic education over, have voted in. Those Mashinani people who you ridicule are the ones who voted in Omtata. You as a Nairobian, you know who you voted in for as governor. You know who you voted in for as your MPs. So before you think that civic education is a thing, it starts here. It starts with you. Okay. Before you start pushing any hashtag.
Mohammed, there's one more topic that I need us to touch on before we wind up. There's a new bid to increase the presidential term limit. Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei, in a controversial move, wants the Senate to initiate amendments to the law to allow presidents to serve 2 7-year terms. Should that be a consideration?
I don't think so, Trevor. I really do not know where these people come up with these discussions from. It's neither here nor there. We have 5-year term limits, 2 terms. I have no understanding, Trevor, where it comes from. I do not think that it needs to be a conversation. If anything, the Speaker should throw it out the moment it comes to Senate. It should not be on national. It's a discussion that is neither here nor there. I do not see its value. I do not see the need of what it will serve. He might argue, and as more people have argued, that 5-year period is short time. We want to see those in office get slightly longer time to implement whatever proposals that they've come with.
Yes, the argument is that the first 2 years, there's still that movement trying to set government, trying to get your cabinet. There's also court cases here and there. So the only 5-year last time is what you can work. So the first 2 years, they're giving you a grace period to organize your house.
On the face value of it, it might make sense. But I think the problem may be that we suffer more from, because it is, yes, you sell political ambitions and you sell a political manifesto. However, that has to be translated into policy, and then that's how it gets implemented. I think that the people who draft policy, the people who implement policy, majority of them are civil servants. They're career civil servants. There needs to be an understanding that there is a continuity in those things. We really like moving away from redoing the thing every now and then. This administration comes, and it's okay. You might argue that, well, I sold a political ambition, I sold a political manifesto, and this is why I was voted in. You might disagree with it, but I think core functions need to be moving regardless of who is in office. That is how there needs to be a continuity in policy and in a lot of these things. We cannot keep doing this thing every now and then, assuming, let's say, that the next person who we will vote into office does not think that the social health insurance fund is a good idea. We've committed to 104 billion direct procurement over a 10-year period. They come in and they overhaul the whole thing. it's another 100 or so billion. It's another policy that must go through public participation, that must go through legislative process in Parliament. Again, it must go through, in the event that Kenyans feel that there's something wrong with it, it will go through a judicial process. Majority of bills today are ending up all the way in Supreme Court. The argument might make sense on face value. I think the better ideology will be that we move a lot of our policy from that it shifts with every administration to more continuous. The political ambitions could change. I don't see why that discussion needs to be here.
Okay, Kasmul, is this a valid discussion?
No, not at all. Gerard Gay bringing this bill, first of all, it is a ludicrous thing that we're having this discussion, because the next thing that we're going to see is Ruto will come back and say, hey, listen, guys, and I was not there when this law was made. Therefore, this law does not apply to me. So he's seeking, for them, they think that they're seeing a 14-year stint. They want to take us back to those days where they could do those kind of things. That's why I'm saying right now, we are, the state is under legislative capture. The legislature thinks that they can just cut budgets, they can pass these silly things. And I'm saying this because if there's anything, if they wanted to show that there's goodwill, what they should have restored first is for the president's ability to dissolve parliament, in the sense that if they feel that he has an idea, he has a manifesto that he wanted to work on, and there are agendas that he had that were clearly cut that he wanted to advance, and those, if you see it, now Parliament is divided into two. You get a simple majority. If these people, that's the first thing that they should have tabled. Trying to extend a presidential limit is nonsensical. And that's why I'm reading a lot of malice, because that's exactly what we are going to see once these people have passed this thing. However, this is a non-issue. We are not even supposed to be discussing it on national television. It will not happen. To the fellow Kenyans, we will not accept that these people oppress you for a further 7 years. If this is what they can do in 2 years, ask yourself what they will do if given 7 years. Again, if we elected candidates who did not have Article 6 issues, if we elected people who did not have integrity problems, if, for example, Okiya Omtata was the president, do you think he would need to clean up court cases? He's been in the public limelight for a long time. He's shown us that he is a dependable man. He's shown up. If we had such candidates, and I'm using him just as a placeholder, not because he's a paragon of virtue, but as a person who has been in public service and shown us that kind of lifestyle, he would not need this kind of nonsense, because there are people who can operate from a point of virtue. And that's why when we were saying Ruto must go, we were talking about these systems and institutions that even if the presidency was a 3-year term, you do not need to spend 2 years trying to sort out your corrupt. Of course, there are things that go on and there are political favors, but they would not be as heavy. They should not even reflect on the taxpayer. And that's why we're saying Kenyans have proven that they're willing to crowdfund. So I do not need to go to thugs to get funding. The Kenyans have shown that they're willing and interested in the change. Therefore, this term limit agenda is dead on arrival.
Okay.
It should not pass.
Will this revolution hold? Because we've seen the play out on social media. We've seen accusations against you, we've seen accusations against Morara. The revolution is eating itself from inside. Do you still have the same agenda, or is it now an issue of selfish interest as well? Same thing we accuse the politicians.
No, clearly so. And I can see how someone would say that there could be fostering of individual interests. However, if we are truly leaderless, why can't somebody else step up? Why does it have to be? Am I the only young person who's the most eloquent? Am I the only young person who's fit to lead? That's the apathy. But we need to beat that apathy. And the way we beat that apathy is through organizing. Yes, we are allowed to agonize, but organizing. And there will be many more. There are hundreds of young people who have emerged from this thing. Because at some point we thought that this is an online-based and Nairobi-based revolution. We do not know the views of the youth in Trans Nzoia. We do not know the voice of youth in Maralal or up there in Marsabit or down there in Nyabohanse. We need to find a holistic view on this thing, because the youth have truly risen to the cause. And we are saying that now that these political class are trying to push us to a ballot revolution. We must organize quite well, show ourselves worthy to weather political storms. And I would say this without fear of contradiction. I've invited the public to audit my life, and even the government through its various institutions, that if there are inconsistencies with what I say versus what I practice, let me be jailed. Because we are saying once we take power, we will jail these people. Once we take political power, we will not forget that they killed our people, that they raped our women and they murdered our women and threw them in inquiry. So I'm saying this invitation is just for you to say that I am willing to subject myself to the very standards that we want to subject you to.
Okay.
Yes.
Mohammed, will this hold? The revolution that we keep talking about?
Yes, Trevor, and it must hold. Even if it were to develop fractions as we go along, we will mend it and we will ensure that it holds, because all it calls for is better healthcare, better governance, better education. Those are not, sorry, they are my individual interest. I want quality education. I want quality healthcare. I want good roads. I want better governance. I want to be led by people of integrity. But so does Kasmil. So do you. So my individual interests are not in contradiction to your individual interest. If I'm a farmer, I want better market for my coffee. If I'm a pastoralist, I want better market for my milk, for my animals, and all of these things. So my individual interests are not in contradiction to the individual interest of the person in Muranga or Tanzania. However, those must come together. We must sell this narrative that my individual interest is the public interest, that it is for all of us together, that what I want is what you want. This revolution was not for young people itself. Unemployment cuts across. Today, the young person who will not access education at university because of a rise in funding is not only crying himself, Trevor. His mom will shed tears. So will his father, and so will the entire village. So what we fought for are not exclusive to the youth. Unemployment is not exclusive to the youth. These taxes, punitive tax measures, are not exclusive to the youth. They are the problems of everyday Kenyans. We must sell it as that. And selling is where we will beat these people. Finally, on the question of, just to repeat myself again, will it hold? It must. Our lives depend on it. This country depends on it. That the political consciousness that we got in June and in July, and which we will continue to get in 25, 26, and 27, must hold until that election, and it must count.
Okay. Let me bring us a feedback really quick, and then we'll take closing remarks from you, because we really ran out of time. Just a minute each for closing remarks. Let's bring up the feedback and see what you're saying at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. Then we seed ground for DJ Gigi, who's already here. Adam says the change we need in Kenya will not just come through the youth, but through Kenyans of integrity. A number of activists are not genuine about the change, but focused on popularizing their organizations. We have to unite to bring change, okay? Okay, Lomolimu says no one should sympathize with the DP who spends 99% of his time advancing interest of one ethnic group at the expense of serving the entire nation. He has done everything wrong since the day of oath taking, from reading non-existent oath to shareholding remarks. Shauri yake. Okay. Continue to say the major problem with the current crop of youthful activists and leaders is untamed ambition. This makes it difficult to trust whatever decision they make, be it well-intentioned or otherwise. The moment they become public figures is the moment they desire to be waheshimiwa. Okay. Bob Otieno says now new bid to increase presidential term limits should be thrown out, because if given time, next move will be to throw out term limits of a president to rule forever. Okay. Sam Masika says government of Kenya is building a case against the DP and friends. They are grasping at straws. They have nothing. They are trying so hard to blame him for the protests. We need to focus on real issues affecting Kenyans like SHA, the Adani deal, and education. Okay. Remy Butia say, I say to Kenyan youth the words of Nikki Giovanni. You, my children of battle, are your own heroes. You must invent your own games and teach us old ones how to play. Okay. Sawe says, Gen Z, let's stay focused on the mission we began. They'll throw labels at you to distract from the ultimate goal. Those in power will use every tool at their disposal. Being leaderless, they'll get a scapegoat, hence Gachagua. We must fix what's broken. Okay. Kasmuel, closing remarks.
As I close?
Yes.
I'll just start with the core subjects. Bwana Rigathi Gachagua, we hope that your impeachment goes through. Your impeachment is not an indictment against the people of Mount Kenya. The people of Mount Kenya, as people know, are loving, are truthful people. It does not reflect. Your impeachment has nothing to do with them. We support that motion. We also support the motion of impeachment against your presidents because this presidency has failed its Kenyans. Currently, I'm reading the page of the obituaries. And the people I see here do not, just like the people I see in government, do not deserve to be here. I will keep reading this list closely and hope that, just like in government, this list will have people it deserves. And this was Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month. We spent the entire day talking about the Deputy President's alleged impeachment motion, while there's a doctor who died by suicide because the material conditions would not allow it. Because interns, medical interns are working 36-hour shifts, 12 hours, more than 16 hours on their feet, without food, without pay. But we are here discussing, their impeachment. Therefore, we cannot continue to be this heartless. And I'm urging and imploring other Kenyans that if you think that someone is not doing that work, if I am not doing the work as well as you'd want me to do, because nobody told me to come to the streets, I was not given this mandate by anyone. Elect yourself also. Come to the street and fight as passionately for what you believe and fight for the collective interest. As long as you're advancing an interest that is for the people and your heart is in the right place, fight. If you're a frontliner, it is a difficult battle, but this country is worth fighting for. Okay. And we will teach these people how to dance to the tune of our new music that we write.
Okay, Mohammed?
Thank you, Trevor. So, to the president, chances are high you will see your term through until 2027. This is a request, not necessarily a request. It's a constitutional demand. It's the demand of all Kenyans. Lead a just government. Abort this Adani deal. It smells to the high heavens. Respect court orders. The institutions that you destroy today will destroy this country. Please respect institutions. Ensure that those in your administration respect institutions, constitutional institutions. To the general public, I think let's be kind to each other, especially those who lead from the front. I think let's give each other the benefit of doubt. Boniface Mwangi is struggling with suicidal thoughts. Kasmel had to jump over barriers to escape from arrest of police. Hanifa had to crowdsource and fund and ensure that those who were injured and those who were murdered could be laid to rest and they could access. So let's be kind to those. I think give them the benefit of doubt. They fight for your public interest similar to their individual interest. It's all about good governance. It's about good education, good healthcare. It's the things that we all want for. It is not easy for them. So let's be kind to each other. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kasmul Makoure, artist and activist, Mohammed Abdullahi, a law student, and Mwanase Ahmed Ubuntu, activist in absentia. Thank you so much for making time this morning. We keep giving this platform to young people to hear their thoughts on the issues here, just the same way we do to other leaders as well. All right, we're taking a quick break. When you come back, DJ Gigi is here with Ben Sue on the decks. See you in just a bit. Have a fantastic weekend ahead, people. Bye for now.